I think the reason why the British government in particularly infuriates me is because either they denied how bad of a job they did in the Indian subcontinent, how bad of a people they were in the Indian subcontinent. Either that, or they try to logic it away and say, "Oh yeah, colonialism wasn't that bad. You got railways. Well, guess what? Those railways got soaked in Indian blood, so it's not really good, actually." you know, and I think I hate it because we're just expected just to move on when they literally have multiple of our artifacts. They're the ones that dug up and made archaeological sites of our land and that are mainly in control of our archaeological sites. Okay. They took away anything they could grab. Okay, I'm pretty sure they would have taken the Taj Mahal if it was smaller. All right, I'm pretty sure the only reason they weren't able to take the Taj Mahal and put it in the British Museum is because the Taj Mahal was literally a big fat stone building. It was too big. If it was like a tomb, they would try to take it. But I think the reason I hate the British government so much is basically just why won't you get over that? That happened 80 something years ago. And I'm just no, firstly, you don't get to just absolve yourself from hundreds of years of crime. All right? They came in the early 1600s basically with the plan to control India. All right, early 1600s, late 1500s, I think is what it was. So from about 1600, let's just say it even 1600, all the way to 1947, which is basically 1950. That's 350 years almost, if not more, of British infiltration and rule of the Indian subcontinent, where you plundered, pillaged, raped, genocided, malnutritioned, forcibly starved, millions of people. You treated at least the Bengalis, okay, and I'm pretty sure the Indians and Pakistanis, were too. You basically treated the Bengalis as glorified cattle slaves, because you were running their hands red with blood to get the indigo dyes and the opium, the opium in poppy fields, because you were so addicted, and then you were trying to pump it back into China when China already had a problem and it said no, but you're just I don't want to, I want the money. So then you went into the Chinese opium wars because China was just no, but you wanted the money, you wanted the power, and you came in and tried to destroy China. And then, you got us addicted to the opium because we were constantly in those frickin' fields, working for you, and all our labor, all the crops we, took out with our own hands, all of it basically was given to you, okay? All the food, all the opium, and I mean, who wants to have opium? But anyway, for example, the Bengal muslin, the very special fabric. Yeah, you guys took that too. Basically left us with nothing. You just took every beautiful thing of our country and said, of our countries, and basically said, okay, I have mine. Screw you. Bye. And, I'm looking more and more into when, colonization was a thing. And I'm just I find myself more and more having this hatred for the British government. These high and mighty British people, and I can't find myself to forgive them. I know logically the people that are alive today, at least some of them weren't responsible for it, but you still benefit from it. You created the problem of Kashmir and Jammu. Yeah, there was violence in the region. Okay, there was violence in the region, but it's controlled violence, it's you have the, cities in America, that have some crime problems. That's basically what was Kashmir and Jammu beforehand. but because you wanted your money, but because you wanted to destroy Pakistan and India, made them fight. You wanted to basically divide and conquer Pakistan and India to where you divided them. And through Kashmir and Jammu, made them fight so much that they're both considered third world countries, I think. Yeah, I think they're both considered third or second world, countries, because you bled them dry so much, never helped them afterwards, and any aid you gave them had strings attached. You made the violence for Kashmir and Jammu to be even more, worse, because you divided the lines, and you basically said all the Pakistanis here in the West, this western portion, all the Muslims, sorry, you go there, and then all the Hindus, you go east. So then, of course, it's gonna be like, oh, they're all Muslim, they're all Pakistani, then most of them are gonna be Muslim. They're Indians, most of them are gonna be Hindu, and like you can't have like this sort of, not secular, but like society to where you have multiple different religions, just coexisting. You can't have that. Why? Because the British. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm 100% on board. If we get rid of the corruption in our governments, and police forces and military, which is caused for the most part by the British, but if we get rid of the corruption, clean up our water, clean up our streets, from dirt and stuff, and if we had proper representation in the Indian Parliament for Muslims, I don't know about any other Pakistani, but at least I am 100% on board with not exactly becoming a part of India, but like a sort of like independent province, I guess you could say. Like a sort of like an independent province to where like we are basically our own country, but like when we're attacked, then like India helps us, and like we have representation in like the Indian and Indian Parliament, like I'm not saying it will work, and I'm not saying it's ever worked in the history of the Indian subcontinent for like the lands of Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh to be like one country, but like with our resources and stuff, the ones that are like left over from what the British took, and with our people, with our culture, if like we do that, then we would be one of the best like regions on earth. But no, the British wanted to plunder us dry and then give us just enough so they can say, oh yeah, we gave you railways, oh yeah, we gave you like this and that, and I'm just like, actually you pushed us into the past, because like, for example, early 1800s, I think, like, what, 1820s, I want to say 1820s, that counts as early 1800s, but anyway, like the 1820s, you compare India and Britain. In Britain, you had outbreaks of like cholera, yellow fever, like black plague, and like black death even. You had multiple different diseases going around, people literally throwing their feces and urine out onto the streets from their from their like pail things. And, you just had cow dung everywhere. The streets were absolutely filthy. That's why they made at the end, for example, at the end of the, like a woman's dress, like later in the century, to have like this sort of like thing that basically caught all the dirt because, it was so dirty there. There was like constant like smog from industrialization later in the century, but at least earlier in the century, it was just absolutely filthy, and like hygiene was not a priority. But India was the exact opposite. Along with, they had a big gold supply. Their homeless population was barely, like, it was negligible at best, and everything was so clean. But no, because you destroyed us, you set us back like 100 years. Like, set us back 100 years, because you just wanted more, like a little greedy pig. Okay, you just wanted more and more and more. You just want to eat up more and more and more, and you destroyed like 5 million countries to do it.